He is already talking of the great betrayal, and he joins me now. Mr Farage, do you really think that Brexit won't happen as things stand?
Oh, I hope and pray that it does, but what I see is a movement, and this court case is just a part of it. There's a movement to try and keep us in the single market. Now, we've seen Jeremy Corbyn, Ed Miliband, Nick Clegg, even some Tory backbenchers who were on the Leave side are now arguing, well, of course, Britain must stay part of the single market. And frankly, if that's where we end up, we've got half Brexit, and that's not what we voted for.
You've said this week that you don't any longer trust the independence of the judges. That seems a very hardline thing to say, a bit Trumpy, if I may say.
Isn't it? I mean, isn't it ever? But then you look at Lord Justice Thomas, and you see that actually he was the founding member of a body seeking to integrate law at an EU level. Surely with that background, he should have absented himself from this particular case.
So do you think that when it comes to the Supreme Court, we shouldn't trust the Supreme Court not to be politically biased in this decision? Is that what you're saying?
I'm afraid that the reach of the European Union into the upper echelons of society in this country makes it quite difficult for us to trust the judgments. And I mean, look, if you were on a jury, you would have to say, I have a vested interest in this case, I can't sit on this jury. I'd like the same thing to happen.
But given that all law has involved European law, that would virtually rule out all judges. And I just put it to you that these are professionals whose job is to look at our constitutional law and take a decision on the basis of the law.
That's fine.
It's quite dangerous to call them.
That's fine, but if they've been activists pushing for politically European integration, they shouldn't be making these judgments.
When it comes to those famous newspaper headlines now, enemies of the people, do you deprecate that or do you agree with it?
Oh, well, I completely understand. But look, let's get to what's happening here. We may have seen Bob Geldof and 40,000 people in Parliament Square, moaning about Brexit. Believe you me, if the people in this country think that they're going to be cheated, they're going to be betrayed, then we will see political anger, the likes of which none of us in our lifetimes have ever witnessed in this country. Those newspaper headlines are reflecting that.
There's going to be a real danger of disturbance in the streets and so on if Brexit is thwarted by Parliament.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, I heard you talking to Gina Miller earlier about the nasty things that have been said about her. I mean, believe you me, I've had years of this. I've had years of hate mobs, taxpayer-funded hate mobs, chasing me around Britain. The temperature of this is very, very high. Now, I'm going to say to everybody watching this, who was on the Brexit side, let's try and get even. Let's have peaceful protest, and let's make sure in any form of election we don't support people who want to overturn this process.
Now, you mentioned election. We've got a by-election coming up in Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
The Conservatives are almost bound, I'd have thought, to choose a kind of fairly hard Brexit candidate. In those circumstances, what is the role of UKIP?
Well, the point about UKIP is that we have to make sure this actually happens, and history is littered with politicians making big promises and not delivering. In fact, I can remember when she was Home Secretary, Theresa May making big promises about what she would do with immigration numbers and failing at every turn.
You've said in the Sunday Express today that you're not going off to the jungle. You're not going to be nibbling on kangaroos' nether parts or anything like that. You're going to stay and fight because it's politically very important. So you're not giving up on politics.
No.
Can I ask you about your own future? Because, if I may say so gently, your party has had a bit of a leadership issue recently. I assume you're now a Paul Nuttall man, but it's been a complete, it's been a complete something.
No, it's been a soap opera. Yeah. Look, we've had a terrible few weeks. There's no question about that. It's been awful. It's been pretty embarrassing at times. And yet, in the opinion polls, there is still a significant level of support for us out there. And I think...
Can you see circumstances in which, before Brexit actually happens, you come back to lead UKIP?
No.
No?
No, I've had enough of party politics. I'm sick of it. I'm interested in politics, interested in issues, keen to go on campaigning, but party politics, preparing a party for national elections every year, finished.
All right, we're going to talk more about politics in a moment, but for now, thank you very much indeed. Even as the political temperature rises both here and in the United States, the real temperature has been falling sharply. After a wonderful October, is this the start of winter? Let's try and warm things up again. Nigel Farage, you have talked about a moneyed elite betraying the will of the people. Are you talking about Gina here? Miller?
Oh, very much so, yeah. Although, don't forget, I've been in the European Parliament for years, so I've seen this happen all over Europe. I've seen the Danes forced to vote again, the Irish forced to vote again, the Dutch and French ignored. There is a political and wealthy ruling elite who are not prepared to accept the democratic result of referendums.
You've been an insurgent all your political life. Do you not at least admire Gina Miller here for using her own money to change things? I mean, nobody asked her to do this. She used her own money. She went to the House of Lords, she went to the courts, and she has now changed our entire political structure.
Well, Parliament has to have a vote, and she's done what she believes in. I, of course, support people doing what they believe in. However, I just want to ask her, what part of the word leave don't you understand?
This case, have you read the case?
Yes, and you're arguing
Yes.
that Parliament should have a say. But do you want us, ultimately, OK, you accept we're leaving the European Union, do you want us to stay part of the single market?
I'm not the politician. I'm not the politician here. I'm the person who saw the elephant in the room, which was there is no legal certainty. You should actually be my biggest fan, because I've just created the legal certainty so that Theresa May can now, rather than appealing, go ahead, have the debate and leave, not interrupt her timetable. So actually, there is legal certainty.
But what you've done is you've given all those in Parliament who argue that the referendum does not mean we should leave the single market, you've given them the chance, effectively, to overturn the Prime Minister's wish and to mandate her. And if that happens, you would have stirred up, I think, the biggest political upset we've ever seen.
So should we sack all the MPs and they go home? Because
what
we have a representative democracy at the moment, which means that they have to go in there and debate. That's what Parliament was. That's what you argued for the whole way through, which was parliamentary sovereignty.
No,
exactly.
No. This is not about whether Parliament's sovereign. It's about whether the British people are sovereign. That's the real argument
We are not
here.
a direct
and for you as a pro-EU supporter, to talk about parliamentary sovereignty in Britain is a bit rich, isn't it, really?
Well, we move on. Do you want a country where we have no process, where everything we do in life, be it buying a house...
It's called a referendum. We've had a referendum.
If Parliament wanted to, the Referendum Act would not have said it was advisory. The politicians lied all the way through, because they didn't say that.
I take the advisory point, and I would now wish to see constitutional change to make referendums binding, and that then would end this argument and there'd be no need for this case.
Do you think there now needs to be another general... If Brexit is sort of stuck inside the House of Commons and the House of Lords, we haven't even talked about the Lords for a while, do you think there needs to be another general election?
Yes, I think that if Parliament was to effectively try and mandate the Prime Minister to try and keep us inside the single market, I don't think Theresa May would have any choice but to go to the country for a spring general election, and she could do so on a very clear ticket, win a big majority. The House of Lords problem, there are 104 Liberal Democrat live peers who appear to be pledged to delaying the process as much as possible.
And some Conservative peers as well.
I mean, this could be the end of the House of Lords. Yeah.
Seriously, so you're stirring up huge things here, Gina Miller.
I think that Nigel's point on referendum and where is the place of referendum in our political system is a very valid one. But that's not where we exist now. It's about the rule of law where we are now. That is a very valid point about the whole political system being looked at, because it all needs changing, and that's the hatred that's really there. And that's the hatred I completely understand in the people, is that nobody trusts the politicians because the majority of the ones who are the main decision makers lie.
But we always used to trust the judges, and apparently we don't trust the judges now either.
I think that is unforgivable, because they are not, I'm a nobody. They are the biggest brains in this country. They are what make us great. And then, no, I'm sorry, but the reason you said earlier about being conflicted, well, we were part of the European Union. Of course they have to talk about European law. We haven't left yet.
Yes,
they
but
have
Lord
to.
Thomas has been an activist for integration of law at EU level. And look, the points of law we could argue forever. I just feel that if somebody is directly politically conflicted by their past, they should not sit in judgment. That's all.
Well, thank you both very much. I'm just slightly crestfallen. The best bits of the programme are where I'm not involved at all. But thanks very much for that discussion.